wealth to the detriment of their lives.
And that's definitely a burden that we'll be maybe seeing the judiciary handling. But Suleiman, you know, we saw the Treasury CS say they had not signed an agreement with this DP World, had only had discussions with the company. But from where you sit, you know, is this concerning, and where could this head the country?
This is truly concerning. It's a very worrisome, it's really worrying having this kind of issue coming before our eyes at the moment. You know, I'm asking myself, and one of the things I asked myself yesterday is, if it were not for the Kenya Kwanza coalition unearthing this damning report, how else would we have known as a country? You know, is it something that will have gone just under the carpet and they would have successfully maybe achieved their mission? And I think, Vicky, the reason where we are finding ourselves is the reason as to why we are having this kind of reports coming at this stage, and who knows, maybe there are other shady deals going on in our country, it is because we are lacking a robust opposition, or that will have offered checks on the government of the day. That is the issue, or that is the place we are finding ourselves in. The essence of having an opposition in a government, I mean, an opposition that is casting checks on a government, is that it will have shed light on the weaknesses and it will have criticized the government in office, and that those checks is what will have actually ensured that that government is always focused on, and those weaknesses are brought to the forth of to Kenyans. Vicky, one of the things I just wish to also draw as an example is we have the 450 billion standard gauge railway. You know, the other day, two petitioners, I think Caleb Khalifa and Wanjiru Gikonyo, have petitioned the court in Mombasa to have disclosures, for the court to mandate the government to disclose the information and the dealing about the 450 billion standard gauge railway. The High Court has given 21 days to the government to proffer that information, which is yet to be offered to those petitioners. And that tells you, if at all this will have gone under the carpet, if it will have just gone like that successfully, would we have had an opportunity to question how these dealings have been made? And you know, one of the things that we need to appreciate is that Article 10 of our Constitution on the principles of good governance can never be suspended at all. You can never ever suspend aspect of public participation, fairness, openness, and transparency. They can never ever be suspended. You cannot give us any good reason, be it by form of agreement or whatever form. You can never say, I've gone this way, this strategy, and that is why this time round I did not comply with the envisages under Article 10. Look at Article 27. That particular state organ is supposed to have disclosed to the people of Kenya this dealing. The people of Kenya were supposed to have questioned, be given an opportunity to ask. When you talk about a port is a very strategic, economical, and security facility. It is not just a road maybe in Masai Land or in Northeastern. It is a very important facility to us as Kenyans. And I think it is really important that that maybe Parliament again reconvenes, or even the Committee on Transport, to ask hard questions on this. They can even summon the Cabinet Secretary for Transport together with the CS for Treasury to ask the serious questions. You know, we are in a regime whereby even if the Kenya Kwanza coalition, as they have intimated yesterday, if they go to court, the ruling government has always disregarded court orders. One of the orders that have been disregarded is the order from the High Court in Mombasa that has mandated the state to give the petitioners the disclosures on the 450 billion standard gauge railway tender. That has never been shared. So if at all somebody goes to court again, because this is a regime that has perfected the art of disrespecting and disobeying the directives of the court, who knows, or how are we sure that they're going to again comply? I think it is really important that we be given good answers. If at all there's any ongoing process, it ought to be stopped, and it ought to be stopped immediately. This thing calls for key questions, and I think we really need, because we do not seem to have an opposition government at the moment, the Kenya Kwanza coalition has done a good job. It has done a good job in as much as it is part of the government, you know, in a way. It has appreciated the role of the opposition. And I think this kind of exposés are really important. You know, this government is facing its sunset hours, its sunset days. We are going towards a general election. We do not want the government to leave the people of Kenya hanging in a very bad position. Let the government be accountable for what it has done. If at all there's anything bad that has been done or is being done, let it be stopped. Let them follow the due process of the law. It can be complied with. Give the people an opportunity to be heard. If you have good reasons as to why you want to give out certain components of these crucial ports in our country, give us the good reasons. And you know, the people of Kenya will not oppose just for the sheer fact of opposing, if at all there's any economic vantage at that stage. And I think, but this is shameful, and we congratulate the Kenya Kwanza coalition for bringing this to the light of Kenya. Yeah. And it is a very unfortunate thing that we do not have an opposition. It is very very important that we have an opposition going forward. You know, we don't want an opposition that gets subsumed into the government. Those checks is what we are lacking.
And what we have is a conundrum in government, according to what DP Ruto called it, you know, still being within the Jubilee administration, but having to play.
This has been a perfect confusion that has happened. We have the government outside the government and the opposition within the government. And that is why we are having this kind of belated exposures that we are being shared with.
Certainly.
And this is serious, it is damning, and it is shameful if the government does not have good reasons.
Kevin, last word goes to you. You've heard the concerns here from Honorable Sosion on, you know, whether this is privatizing a government asset, and the questions around the huge projects such as SGR that Suleiman just talked about as well. You know, what needs to be done with scenarios like this, and especially when we talk about not having an established opposition, whose job is to perform these checks and balances on government dealings?
One of the things that our constitution has done quite well is to be able to ensure that there is a legislation around access to information, how we use that information, and that is premised in Article 35 of the Constitution. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, His Excellency the President actually launched mega digital systems that are supposed to help identify various assets in our republic and therefore ensure that effective planning is taking place. It's quite disturbing, Victoria, that assets such as the port in Mombasa and other, established assets within the country find themselves in a discussion like this. This is a conversation that should not just happen at the national level. Even at the county levels, we have assets, we have resources, we have monies, and we have officers that, MCAs who are running for MP. We have governors going in for a second time. We have some of them who are not running again because they have served their second term. There is no clear mechanism like we had during the transition process to undertake mechanisms to identify assets and the levels of engagement, whether there are monies, whether there are movable assets that need to be transferred, or whether there are accountability mechanisms for various officers, whether it's about money or whether it's about vehicles and whatever they have within their hands. 39 days to an election, a conversation like this, in my view, is disturbing, therefore, and I want to call upon the various agencies, including the DCI, to be able to undertake proper investigations, because we have had these kind of mechanisms. And as you talk about SGR, Vicky, remember one time, I think it was in 2019 or 2020, ahead of the president's New Year speech, where he told us that in a few days we are going to publish papers and commitments that government made on behalf of Kenyans around SGR. This is many, many, many days, months down the line, and this information has not been put public to the citizens. And so the areas around citizen agency, organizations working around Mombasa, civil society organizations, the media that really engage around where some of these mega assets of government and on behalf of citizens of Kenya are installed, therefore need to come up and advocate and speak loudly about some of these concerns, because these are going to be loopholes for corruption. I am sure that in the next few days, the government should be able to speak loudly about the state of the port of Mombasa, and indeed about even the other assets of government, that where we see conversations, information, and a lot of talks being undertaken, even including the aspects around securitization of some of these assets like KMC. What is the fate post the Jubilee government? These are questions that Kenyans are asking. But of course, as Suleiman says, we do not have a very strong opposition. I don't think Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga and his political party was born to be an opposition. Anybody can play the role of the opposition. But it is much more disturbing when a government, when a party that is seen to be right inside government, because Kenya Kwanza is led by the deputy president, is whistleblowing on a matter like this. Of course, before yesterday, one of the political party members, that's Mohammed Ali, has been posting about this on his Twitter. And of course, he comes from Mombasa. So he's privy to a lot of information. He knows what is happening there. The levels of engagement of citizens, Victoria, even before some of these assets, conversations around some of these assets are started. We must ensure that citizens are participating. A lot of talks around SGR were that people were not involved. People were not informed.
Right.
People were just being told you have this number of days to move your farm from here because there's a huge railway line that is going to pass through this. Our government must be a government of accountability. Our government has to be a government of public engagement. And those are measures, as we said, of good governance. Citizens must be allowed to feel part and parcel of this conversation. So my appeal to the government is, can we have a clear mechanism? And even if possible, because the president's name has actually come up on this issue, the president is a symbol of national unity. Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, we appeal to you to speak about some of these issues, because if you care and are concerned about your legacy when you leave office, Kenyans will judge you based on where your heart is at the point in time when serious questions about your legacy, about some of the infrastructural programs are being discussed. There is no better way to deal with these issues than to come out and speak. So we are looking forward to listening to the president as well, or his people, the people who speak on his behalf, so that Kenyans can be able to have a clear engagement on some of these issues. But much more fundamentally, Vicky, is of course to look at the digitization processes that Kenya is operating within the global frameworks of governance, and so e-citizen mechanism, so that even at a press of a button in my room or in my office or along the jam, I can press a button and I see the number of government assets that are owned by national government, by county governments. Those are things which governments globally actually undertake and are given the privilege and opportunity to disseminate over, particularly on access of information concerns. Victoria.
Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch. Thank you so much for your time. Honorable Wilson Sosion and Suleiman Bashir for your insights this morning. Before we wrap up on the conversation, let's take a look at some of your feedback on social media really quickly. We have Barnabas saying Kenyans are very excitable when it comes to manifestos. We need to take stock and hold our leaders accountable on the promises they make. They always have a way to wow us and end up not fulfilling it. All right. Robert saying we must hold leaders accountable for their promises in the past before we accept any fresh pledges from them. Thank you for that. Joseph saying manifestos are written to lure the electorate. Once in power, they forget about everything. Kenyans are not fools, and we will not be swayed by the well-researched manifestos. We will vote in leaders who are tried and tested and with good track records. And Engineer Lazaro saying seasoned politicians aren't new to us with their robust manifestos. Every electioneering period, Ruto has been DP for the past 9 years. Raila is a former prime minister. Both of them are aware of cartels' influence in controlling the economy. Who's a HSC saying the electronic list should have a manual, or a manual list should be electronic. So they are in support of that complementarity. Isaac saying, going to a poll station and seeing your name printed and posted on walls build more voters' trust. Backup is very important. Thank you so much for your feedback and joining the conversation this morning. And of course, we close out this discussion in honor of Joe Kadi, the